Loneliness doesn't announce itself with thunder. It settles in quietly, like the moment after everyone leaves the room and you're left with the echo of your own breath. It's not the absence of people, it's the absence of connection. You scroll, you smile, you perform, but inside there's a stillness no one seems to hear. Jung believed this wasn't a failure. It wasn't a flaw in your design. It was a call. A sign that your soul is done with noise, done with pretending, done with the masks you wore to fit a world that never really saw you. Loneliness is the beginning, not the end. In the quiet, something begins to unravel. Not your mind, but your identity. The one that was built for survival. The one that knew how to please, how to impress, how to stay small just enough to be accepted. That version of you starts to crack in the silence. And it hurts, because you thought it was you. But Jung knew, this is the necessary death. The collapse of the ego that kept you bonded to roles you never chose. Loneliness is not punishment. It's the sacred dismantling. You're being stripped of illusions. The illusion that you had to earn love. The illusion that being seen required being perfect. The illusion that your worth was conditional. Alone, you face what you couldn't when distracted. And piece by piece, what isn't truly you begin to fall away. In solitude, a different kind of work begins. Not loud, not obvious, but real. You start noticing the thoughts you used to ignore. The beliefs that always ran beneath the surface, telling you who you should be, what you're not allowed to feel, what's too much. You don't argue with them anymore. You observe, and then you question. You realize most of what you thought was you was just noise, borrowed ideas, old fears, other people's expectations. Now, without distraction, you start to hear your own voice underneath it all. It's quieter but clearer. It doesn't scream for approval. It doesn't need to prove anything. Just knows. And slowly, something solid forms, not in who you perform as, but in who you are when there's no one to perform for. This is where the rebuilding begins. Not as a return to who you were, but a creation of who you've quietly become. You no longer chase what you used to. The need to be needed fades. So does the urge to explain yourself. You're not trying to be impressive. You're trying to be whole. Your boundaries get clearer. Not as walls, but as gates. Open to what aligns, closed to what drains. You stop calling it selfish. You start calling it necessary. You move slower, but with more direction. You say less but mean more. You let silence speak. You let your presence carry weight, and the world doesn't have to understand, because you do. There comes a day when the ache feels different. It's still there, but it no longer controls you. The weight remains, but you carry it with strength instead of shame. You've stopped asking why it happened. Now you ask what it taught you. You reconnect with yourself in quiet ways. You find peace in the smallest decisions, what to say no to, where to spend your energy, who you allow close. You stop proving. You start protecting yourself. People may notice the change. You don't react like you used to. You don't chase. You don't shrink. And it's not bitter, it's clarity. It's maturity. The loneliness that once crushed you now feels like space. Space to grow, to choose, to rebuild in your own way. You begin to understand that solitude wasn't a punishment. It was a mirror. It showed you where you abandoned yourself, where you gave too much, where you expected others to complete what was never their job. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you. You realize no one is coming. And strangely, that brings peace, not despair. Because now you know it's your life, your healing, your choice. You set boundaries without guilt. You speak without apology. You feel the ground under your feet steady and real because you built it, not for them, for you. Jung was right. Wholeness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from accepting what you've been through and using it. Not to harden, but to grow. Not to forget, but to become. You're no longer hiding your shadow. You're walking with it.